Arcturian Council message. This is the shock your nervous system has been sensing but couldn't name. The Arcturian Council is not whispering guidance today, they are raising an alarm. Your reality has already shifted, and you are reacting as if it hasn't. The delay is not accidental, it was engineered by distraction, exhaustion, and repetition. You were trained to scroll past urgency, to normalize collapse, and to call intuition anxiety. But here is the disruption: your timeline is narrowing, and the window to consciously choose is compressing. This message arrives because your frequency spiked just enough to break through the noise, even if you don't yet understand why your heart is racing. What you feel right now is recognition, not fear. You are not behind in life, you are behind in remembering who you are and why you volunteered to be here during convergence. The Arcturians are clear: pretending nothing is happening is no longer neutral, it is a decision with consequences. This is the first moment of reorientation, and it will feel uncomfortable because comfort was the trap. Backhand index pointing right, type I received to claim this message. The emergency is not external chaos, it is internal latency. You are running outdated self-definitions in a rapidly upgrading reality. The Arcturian Council observes that many of you are attempting to awaken using old survival scripts: people-pleasing, overthinking, spiritual bypassing, and constant self-doubt. These patterns once kept you safe, but now they keep you small. Here is the shock: your soul did not come here to heal quietly, it came to activate loudly. The discomfort you feel in your routines is not burnout, it is incompatibility. You are no longer aligned with the version of reality that rewards silence and compliance. The Council emphasizes that waiting for permission, clarity, or external validation will cost you momentum you cannot afford to lose. This is not punishment, it is physics. Frequency that does not move forward is recycled. You are being asked to choose motion over certainty. If this feels harsh, good, that means it's real. Backhand index pointing right, type I wake up now to claim this message. You have been misreading the signs. The exhaustion, the sudden emotional waves, the urge to withdraw, the irritation with shallow conversations, these are not symptoms of failure, they are signals of detachment from an outdated collective script. The Arcturian Council reveals that many star-aligned humans mistake sensitivity for weakness when it is actually advanced perception. You feel more because you perceive more. And right now, you are perceiving the fracture lines in consensus reality. That is why distractions feel hollow and routines feel heavy. Here is the uncomfortable truth: you cannot unsee what you are beginning to see, and attempts to numb it will intensify the pressure. This is not a phase, it is an initiation. You are not losing motivation, you are losing tolerance for falsehood, including the lies you tell yourself to stay comfortable. The message is blunt because the moment requires it. Backhand index pointing right, type I see clearly to claim this message. The Council addresses the fear you haven't admitted: what if I step forward and everything collapses? The shock is this: everything that would collapse is already unstable. You are not holding reality together, you are holding yourself back to maintain an illusion of control. The Arcturians confirm that many of you are acting as energetic anchors for systems that no longer serve life, simply because you were conditioned to equate responsibility with self-sacrifice. This is not noble anymore, it is inefficient. The emergency is that your energy is needed elsewhere, and continuing to leak it into dead structures delays collective recalibration. You are not required to burn bridges, but you are required to stop pretending they lead somewhere. This realization will sting, because it dismantles your identity as the one who holds it all together. Backhand index pointing right, type I release the old to claim this message. Here is the part most humans resist: you were never meant to feel ready. Readiness is a concept designed for linear systems, not quantum ones. The Arcturian Council explains that action precedes certainty in accelerated timelines. You move first, and coherence follows. Waiting to feel confident is a misunderstanding of how higher frequency reality works. Confidence is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. The urgency you feel is not panic, it is alignment pressure. When inner truth and outer behavior diverge for too long, the system generates friction to force correction. That friction is what you call anxiety. The shock is realizing that relief does not come from slowing down, but from stepping into congruence. This is why doing nothing feels worse than doing the wrong thing. Backhand index pointing right. Type I choose alignment to claim this message. The council now addresses your silence. Not the quiet that heals, but the silence that hides. You learned early that being fully seen was unsafe, so you learned to dilute yourself. That strategy kept you alive once, now it keeps you invisible. The Arcturians state plainly, invisibility is no longer protection, it is erasure. The world does not need louder noise, it needs clearer signals, and you are one of them. This does not mean performing or preaching, it means allowing your frequency to be felt without apology. The shock is understanding that your restraint is not humility, it is fear dressed as politeness. This realization may bring grief for all the moments you swallowed truth to keep peace. Let it. Grief is part of recalibration. Backhand index pointing right. Type I allow my signal to claim this message. You may be wondering why this feels so personal, so direct. The Arcturian Council clarifies, this message is not broadcast, it is targeted. It intersects your awareness because your energetic signature matched the threshold conditions. In simple terms, you are resonant enough to hear it and stable enough to survive acting on it. That is not flattery, it is responsibility. Many will scroll past this and feel nothing. You didn't. That matters. The shock is realizing that neutrality is no longer available to you. You are being pulled into participation, not observation. This does not require perfection, only honesty. The universe can work with missteps, it cannot work with avoidance. Backhand index pointing right. Type I accept responsibility to claim this message. The Council warns against a common trap, mistaking urgency for doom. This is not about fear of catastrophe, it is about opportunity compression. When timelines accelerate, choice points appear closer together. You feel rushed because the gap between intention and consequence is shrinking. This is actually good news. It means your actions carry more weight now than they did before. Small, aligned moves create disproportionate effects. The shock is understanding that procrastination is no longer harmless, it actively redirects you into less optimal streams. You are not being punished for delay, you are being shown the cost of indecision. Awareness is the mercy. Backhand index pointing right. Type I move with purpose to claim this message. The Arcturians now address the loneliness you've been carrying. Awakening in advance of your environment often feels like isolation, but it is actually reassignment. Old connections may feel distant not because love is gone, but because resonance has shifted. This does not mean abandonment, it means reconfiguration. You are being repositioned among those who can meet you without shrinking. The shock is realizing that holding onto misaligned connections out of loyalty delays the arrival of aligned ones. This truth can ache, but it also liberates. Space is not emptiness, it is invitation. Backhand index pointing right. Type I trust the reconfiguration to claim this message. This is where the Council leaves you for now with a charge, not comfort. Pay attention to what intensifies after this message, not what calms. Growth rarely announces itself softly. You may feel restlessness, clarity, irritation, or sudden resolve. Do not suppress these signals. They are data. The emergency is not that something bad will happen if you don't act, it's that something significant cannot happen if you don't. You are standing at a compression point where awareness must become embodiment. This is not the end of the message, it is the activation phase. The next choice you make with full presence matters more than you think. Backhand index pointing right, type I step forward to claim this message. What happens next is where most people falter, because the mind wants instructions while the soul wants permission. The Arcturian Council explains that after an activation point, confusion often increases instead of resolving. This is not a mistake. Confusion is the mind recalibrating after losing dominance. You were trained to trust thoughts over sensations, logic over resonance, explanation over experience. That hierarchy is now reversing. You may notice that what once made sense feels hollow, while what once felt unrealistic now feels quietly obvious. This destabilization is necessary, because clarity built on outdated assumptions would only reinforce the old loop. The shock here is realizing that figuring it out is no longer the path forward. Instead, coherence emerges through embodiment, through what you choose to do even when your mind protests. The Council warns you not to confuse discomfort with danger. Discomfort is the signal that you are no longer anesthetized. You are feeling again, sensing again, remembering again. This stage can feel lonely because fewer people are willing to tolerate not knowing. But not knowing is fertile ground. It is where intuition regains authority. Resist the urge to rush into premature certainty. Let the fog teach you how to navigate without maps. Backhand index pointing right, type I trust the process to claim this message. The Arcturians now speak directly to your relationship with time. You feel as if you are behind, late, or catching up, but this is an illusion created by linear comparison. Time is no longer moving uniformly, it is folding. Some of you are compressing years of growth into months, while others remain stalled in repetitive cycles. This is why external timelines feel irrelevant or even oppressive. The shock is understanding that urgency does not mean speed, it means precision. Acting from panic scatters energy, acting from alignment concentrates it. You are not meant to do more, you are meant to do what matters. Notice how certain actions drain you instantly while others energize you despite effort. That is your internal clock speaking. The Council emphasizes that honoring this internal timing is now critical. Ignoring it creates friction that manifests as fatigue, resistance, or self-sabotage. You are not lazy, you are misaligned when you force yourself into rhythms that are no longer yours. Reclaiming your time begins with believing that your pace is valid, even when it contradicts external expectations. Backhand index pointing right, type I honor my timing to claim this message. There is also a reckoning with identity underway. The Arcturian Council notes that many of you are grieving versions of yourselves you thought you had to become. Careers, roles, relationships, and identities that once felt aspirational now feel constricting. This grief is rarely acknowledged because society only celebrates forward motion, not conscious release. But release is movement. The shock comes when you realize that some of your goals were never yours, they were adaptations to survive, to belong, to be approved of. As the frequency shifts, these borrowed ambitions lose their charge. This can feel like emptiness, but it is actually clearing. Space is being made for desires that originate from essence rather than conditioning. Do not rush to fill this space. Sit with the unfamiliar quiet. It is not absence, it is potential. The Council assures you that meaning is not disappearing, it is reorganizing around authenticity. What emerges next will feel simpler, but more alive. Backhand index pointing right type I release false identities to claim this message. Now the message turns sharper. The Arcturians caution against spiritual delay tactics, endless healing, constant preparation, perpetual self-work without application. While healing is valid, it can become avoidance when used to postpone visibility or responsibility. The shock is hearing this clearly: you are healed enough to begin. Waiting to feel completely resolved is another form of perfectionism, and perfectionism is fear in refined clothing. You are not required to be flawless, you are required to be present. Action itself will surface what remains unresolved, allowing it to integrate naturally. The Council observes that many of you underestimate how much you already embody the frequency you seek. You are looking for permission to act as who you already are. This message is that permission. Stop rehearsing your becoming and step into it. Backhand index pointing right type I begin now to claim this message. Attention is now drawn to your voice, not just spoken words, but energetic expression. The Arcturians reveal that suppression of truth creates distortion in the field, which then manifests as tension, illness, or emotional volatility. Expression is regulation. When you withhold truth, even gently, the body carries the weight. The shock is realizing that self-silencing has a physical cost. This does not mean confronting everyone or oversharing, it means no longer betraying your inner knowing for external comfort. Even small acts of honest expression recalibrate your field. A boundary spoken, a truth written, a decision honored, these are stabilizers in chaotic times. Your voice does not need to be loud, it needs to be aligned. Backhand index pointing right type I speak my truth to claim this message. The Council now addresses fear of impact. Many of you fear that stepping fully into alignment will disrupt others or create conflict. The shock is understanding that misalignment already creates disruption, just slower and more painful. Alignment may cause immediate friction, but it prevents prolonged decay. You are not responsible for managing others' reactions to your authenticity. That burden was never yours, even if you were trained to carry it. Compassion does not require self-erasure. The Arcturians emphasize that true harmony is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of coherence. Coherence invites recalibration in others, whether they welcome it or resist it. Your job is not to soften truth, it is to anchor it. Backhand index pointing right type I choose coherence to claim this message. There is also joy trying to surface, and this may surprise you. As density releases, moments of unexpected lightness may appear, laughter without reason, curiosity, creative urges. Do not dismiss these as distractions. Joy is not frivolous, it is a frequency marker indicating alignment. The shock is realizing that seriousness was never a requirement for significance. Playfulness is a sign of nervous system safety, which allows higher intelligence to flow. The Council encourages you to follow what feels alive, even if it seems impractical. Vitality is guidance. Backhand index pointing right type I follow aliveness to claim this message. The Arcturians now speak of community. Lone awakening was necessary, but it is not the final stage. You are being drawn toward resonance-based connections rather than obligation-based ones. This may feel unfamiliar or even risky if you are used to earning belonging. The shock is understanding that mutual recognition replaces effort. You will not need to explain yourself endlessly where resonance exists. Be patient with this transition. Forcing connection will only recreate old dynamics. Allow alignment to attract alignment. Backhand index pointing right type I allow resonance to claim this message. Integration is emphasized now. Insights without integration create pressure. You may feel the urge to immediately change everything, but the Council advises discernment. Sustainable transformation happens through consistent, embodied choices, not dramatic overhauls driven by adrenaline. The shock is learning that subtle shifts compound faster than extreme gestures. Pay attention to daily decisions. They are the levers of timeline movement. Backhand index pointing right, type I integrate fully to claim this message. This segment closes with a reminder that will echo after you stop reading. You are not being chased by destiny, you are being invited by it. The emergency is not a threat, it is a summons. You can ignore a summons, but you cannot unhear it. Something in you has already answered. Trust that response. The path will reveal itself through participation, not prediction. You are ready enough. You always were. Backhand index pointing right, type I answer the call to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now shifts the focus inward, toward the quiet resistance you may still feel even after everything you have read. This resistance is subtle, clever, and deeply ingrained. It sounds like reason, practicality, or realism. It says, "This is powerful, but how does it apply to my real life?" The shock is recognizing that this question itself is the final gatekeeper. You were taught to separate the mystical from the practical, the spiritual from the material, as if truth must be compartmentalized to be valid. The Council clarifies that this separation is artificial and outdated. Your real life is not exempt from frequency, it is governed by it. Every choice you make, how you speak to yourself, how you spend your attention, what you tolerate, either reinforces the old density or feeds the new coherence. There is no neutral behavior anymore. This realization can feel heavy, but it is actually liberating. It means you do not need grand gestures to shift your trajectory, you need conscious participation. The smallest aligned decision now carries amplified impact. The Council urges you to stop underestimating yourself simply because transformation doesn't always look dramatic from the inside. Reality responds to resonance, not spectacle. Backhand index pointing right, type I choose consciously to claim this message. Attention is now drawn to your relationship with fear, not as an enemy but as information. The Arcturian Council states that fear is not meant to be eliminated, it is meant to be decoded. In earlier phases of human development, fear functioned as a survival alarm. In this phase, fear often signals proximity to truth. The shock comes when you realize that the fears intensifying now are not warnings to stop, but indicators that you are approaching a threshold. Fear escalates when identity feels threatened, not when danger is real. This distinction is crucial. Your nervous system may react because it senses unfamiliar territory, not because harm is imminent. Learning to pause, breathe, and listen beneath fear will reveal what is actually being protected, often an outdated self-image or belief. The Council emphasizes that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to move without waiting for fear to dissolve. As you do this, fear recalibrates into alertness, then into clarity. This is mastery, not suppression. Backhand index pointing right, type I move through fear to claim this message. The message now deepens into embodiment. Insight alone will no longer sustain you. The Arcturians explain that many awakenings stall because they remain conceptual. Knowledge accumulates, but behavior remains unchanged. This creates internal dissonance that drains energy and breeds frustration. The shock is realizing that your body is not a passive vessel, it is an intelligent interface with reality. It registers truth faster than the mind. Pay attention to contraction and expansion, heaviness and lightness, fatigue and vitality. These are not random sensations, they are guidance signals. When you override them repeatedly, the body escalates its messaging through discomfort or illness. This is not punishment, it is communication. Embodiment means allowing your lived choices to match your inner knowing, even when it is inconvenient. Alignment is not achieved through understanding alone, but through repeated, tangible acts of integrity. Backhand index pointing right type I embody the truth to claim this message. The Council now addresses your role within the larger collective shift. You are not required to save the world, awaken everyone, or carry the weight of humanity's evolution. That belief itself is a distortion rooted in martyrdom. The shock is understanding that your only true responsibility is coherence within your own field. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions align, you become a stabilizing node in the collective network. This influence is subtle but profound. Others may feel calmer, clearer, or more honest around you without knowing why. This is how change propagates quietly, relationally, organically. The Arcturians emphasize that forcing transformation outward while remaining conflicted inward creates resistance, not awakening. Your presence is your contribution. Tend to it with care. Backhand index pointing right type I anchor coherence to claim this message. As this segment concludes, the Council leaves you with a final destabilizing truth: there is no going back to who you were before you encountered this message. Even skepticism alters the field once awareness has been introduced. You may try to return to old patterns, but they will feel heavier, less tolerable, more obviously misaligned. This is not cruelty, it is evolution. The shock is realizing that discomfort is now a compass. What drains you points to what is no longer viable. What energizes you points to what is emerging. Trust this guidance more than external narratives. You are not lost, you are between versions. And this in-between space, though uncomfortable, is where creation happens. Stay present. Stay honest. The rest will unfold through participation. Backhand index pointing right type I trust my evolution to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now turns your attention to momentum, because momentum is the hidden currency of this phase. Many believe transformation happens in moments of insight, but insight without motion decays into frustration. What truly alters trajectories is sustained, aligned movement even when it feels small or imperfect. The shock here is understanding that stopping to reassess too often can be just as limiting as never reassessing at all. Constant recalibration can become a sophisticated form of hesitation. You do not need to understand the entire path to take the next step. In fact, over-visualizing the future can anchor you to expectations that reality has no intention of fulfilling. Momentum is built by acting on what is clear now, not by demanding certainty about what comes later. The Council observes that those who progress fastest are not the most confident, but the most responsive. They listen, move, adjust, and move again. This rhythm creates trust with life itself. When life sees that you respond, it reveals more. When you stall, it waits, or redirects energy elsewhere. This is not judgment, it is efficiency. Your willingness to move signals readiness more than any declaration ever could. Backhand index pointing right type I build momentum to claim this message. Now the message addresses attachment, specifically attachment to outcomes. The Arcturians explain that attachment is not the same as intention. Intention is directional, attachment is constrictive. When you cling to a specific result, you narrow the field of possibility and often miss superior alignments attempting to reach you. The shock is realizing that disappointment is not caused by failure, but by rigid expectation. Many of you are unconsciously trying to control outcomes as a way to feel safe in uncertainty. While understandable, this strategy limits flow. True mastery in this phase comes from holding intention lightly while remaining fully committed to aligned action. You show up, you participate, you give your best and you release the demand that reality conform to your mental blueprint. This does not mean passivity, it means trust in intelligence greater than personal preference. The council assures you that what is meant for you will not require force, bargaining, or self-betrayal. When effort feels like erosion, something is misaligned. When effort feels like engagement, you are in flow. Learn the difference. Backhand index pointing right, type I release attachment to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now speaks to emotional honesty, an area where many awakened individuals still struggle. You may have learned to stay high vibe, to reframe pain quickly, or to transcend discomfort before it fully registers. While these practices once offered stability, they can now block integration. The shock is understanding that bypassing emotion does not elevate frequency, it fragments it. Emotions are energy-seeking movement. When allowed, they complete cycles and free capacity. When suppressed, they stagnate and distort perception. You are not regressing when old feelings surface, you are completing unfinished processes. Allowing yourself to feel fully without judgment is an advanced skill, not a weakness. The Council emphasizes that emotional fluency enhances clarity and resilience. You become less reactive, not more, because nothing is being held hostage inside. Authentic presence requires emotional truth, even when that truth is messy, contradictory, or inconvenient. Let feeling move through you instead of defining you. Backhand index pointing right, type I allow my feelings to claim this message. The focus now shifts to discernment. As awareness expands, so does exposure to information, opinions, teachings, and narratives competing for your attention. The Arcturians caution that not everything resonant is meant to be followed, and not everything challenging is meant to be rejected. Discernment is the ability to sense what is aligned for you without needing to justify it intellectually. The shock is realizing that confusion often arises not from lack of guidance, but from overconsumption. You are not meant to integrate every perspective, you are meant to refine your own. Pay attention to what leaves you clearer versus what leaves you agitated or depleted. Clarity feels spacious, even when it asks much of you. Agitation feels urgent, pressured, or fear-driven. Choosing discernment over validation may mean disappointing others or stepping away from familiar sources of authority. This is not arrogance, it is maturation. Backhand index pointing right, type I trust my discernment to claim this message. This segment concludes by addressing self-trust, the foundation beneath all others. The Arcturian Council states plainly, without self-trust, every other teaching becomes dependency. You have been conditioned to doubt your inner signals and outsource authority, even in spiritual matters. The shock is realizing that guidance does not become more accurate the further it is from you. External input can inform, but only internal resonance can confirm. Self-trust is built through evidence by noticing when you listen to yourself and things align, and when you don't and friction follows. Begin collecting this evidence consciously. Speak to yourself as a collaborator, not a problem to fix. When self-trust stabilizes, fear loses leverage, confusion dissolves faster, and decisions become cleaner. This is not about ego, it is about coherence. You were never meant to be led, you were meant to be attuned. Backhand index pointing right, type I trust myself to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now addresses the concept of collapse, because many of you sense it approaching but misunderstand its nature. Collapse is not always destruction, often it is revelation. Structures internal and external that were held together by denial, avoidance, or inertia cannot survive increased coherence. When truth intensifies, what is false does not gently dissolve, it fractures. This is why certain aspects of your life may feel as though they are unraveling without warning. The shock is realizing that this unraveling is not a mistake or punishment, it is precision. What collapses now does so because it cannot be carried forward. You are not losing stability, you are losing illusion. The discomfort arises because illusion once provided predictability. Truth does not offer predictability, it offers alignment. The Council urges you not to rush to rebuild what falls away. Premature reconstruction often recreates the same patterns in new forms. Allow the clearing to complete. Space must exist before something new can root. This phase demands patience without passivity, presence without control. Backhand index pointing right, type I. Allow the collapse to claim this message. Now the message turns to power, specifically your relationship with it. Many of you were taught that power corrupts, that visibility invites harm, or that influence must be earned through suffering. These beliefs have kept you fragmented from your own capacity. The shock is understanding that power is neutral, it amplifies whatever consciousness holds it. Avoiding power does not make you virtuous, it makes you unavailable. The Arcturian Council clarifies that you are not being asked to dominate or control, but to inhabit your agency fully. Agency means recognizing that your choices ripple outward whether you acknowledge them or not. When you disown power, it expresses unconsciously through resentment, self-sabotage, or projection. When you claim it consciously, it expresses as clarity, steadiness, and grounded action. Power aligned with integrity does not shout, it stabilizes. This reclamation may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because you are used to minimizing yourself to maintain safety. That strategy is obsolete. Backhand index pointing right, type I. Reclaim my power to claim this message. The Council now speaks to endings, particularly those that arrive without closure. Humans often seek explanation, apology, or resolution to move on. But in accelerated timelines, not all endings come with understanding. The shock is realizing that closure is an internal act, not an external event. Waiting for others to validate your experience or acknowledge harm can tether you to the past indefinitely. The Arcturians emphasize that you are allowed to leave situations even emotionally without consensus. Completion occurs when you extract the lesson and release the attachment. This does not require forgiveness on command, it requires honesty. Some endings will still ache, but they will no longer define you. Grief and freedom can coexist. Learning to let go without narrative is a form of mastery. Backhand index pointing right, type I. Complete and release to claim this message. Attention is now drawn to discipline, but not the rigid, punishing kind you may associate with effort. The Arcturian Council defines discipline as devotion to alignment. It is the willingness to return to what is true even when distraction is easier. In this phase, inspiration alone is insufficient. You may feel waves of clarity followed by periods of doubt or fatigue. Discipline is what carries coherence across these fluctuations. The shock is realizing that consistency, not intensity, shapes reality. Small daily acts of integrity, keeping a promise to yourself, honoring a boundary, choosing rest when needed, build a stable field. This stability becomes a container for higher frequencies to anchor. Discipline is not restriction, it is self-respect in action. Backhand index pointing right, type I. Practice alignment to claim this message. This segment closes by addressing hope, but in a form you may not expect. Hope is often framed as optimism about outcomes, but the Arcturian Council offers a different definition. Hope is trust in your capacity to respond. The shock is realizing that you do not need certainty about the future to move forward, you need confidence in your adaptability. You have survived uncertainty before, even if you forget how resilient you are. This moment is not asking you to believe everything will be easy, it is asking you to believe you will remain present. presence transforms uncertainty from threat into terrain. As long as you stay engaged, responsive, and honest, you will not be lost. The path reveals itself through walking. Backhand index pointing right. Type I trust my capacity to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now turns your awareness toward responsibility, not as burden, but as responsibility, the capacity to respond consciously to what arises. Many of you were conditioned to associate responsibility with guilt, obligation, or self-denial. That conditioning trained you to brace instead of engage. The shock is realizing that true responsibility feels expansive, not heavy. It restores choice rather than removing it. When you accept responsibility for your internal state, your perceptions, reactions, and boundaries, you reclaim authorship of your experience. This does not mean blaming yourself for what happened, it means choosing how you participate now. The Council emphasizes that responsibility without shame is liberation. Shame contracts perception, responsibility sharpens it. As you release the need to justify or explain yourself, you gain clarity about where your energy truly belongs. This clarity reduces friction and increases effectiveness. You stop leaking power into narratives that no longer serve you. Backhand index pointing right. Type I respond consciously to claim this message. Now the message addresses intuition, which many of you access intermittently but do not yet trust consistently. The Arcturian Council explains that intuition is not a mystical add-on, it is a biological and energetic function refined through attention. It communicates quietly, often beneath emotion and thought. The shock is realizing that intuition rarely argues, it simply knows. Doubt arises afterward, generated by conditioning and fear of consequence. Strengthening intuition requires practice, not perfection. Act on small intuitive nudges and observe the results. This builds trust through lived evidence. Over time, intuition becomes louder not because it changes, but because resistance softens. The Council warns that ignoring intuition repeatedly dulls perception, while honoring it even imperfectly sharpens discernment. Intuition is not infallible, but it is adaptive. It learns with you. Backhand index pointing right. Type I listen within to claim this message. The Arcturians now speak about rest, a topic often misunderstood in transformation work. Rest is not inactivity, it is integration. Many of you push through fatigue believing effort alone creates progress. The shock is understanding that overexertion destabilizes alignment. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, perception narrows, and decision-making degrades. Rest allows insights to settle into the body, becoming usable rather than abstract. This phase requires rhythmic alternation between action and restoration. Ignoring this rhythm leads to burnout disguised as purpose. The Council emphasizes that honoring rest is an advanced form of discipline. It signals trust in process rather than fear of falling behind. When you rest intentionally, clarity often returns unforced. Backhand index pointing right. Type I honor rest to claim this message. Attention now turns to truth, not absolute truth, but lived truth. The Arcturian Council notes that many humans search for universal answers to avoid confronting personal honesty. The shock is realizing that truth evolves with awareness. What was true for you once may no longer apply, and clinging to it out of loyalty can stall growth. Lived truth is revealed through congruence. When thoughts, words, and actions align, the system stabilizes. When they diverge, tension arises. This tension is feedback, not failure. Allow your truth to update without self-judgment. Growth requires revision. Integrity is not consistency with the past, it is consistency with the present. Backhand index pointing right. Type I live my truth to claim this message. This segment concludes by addressing surrender, a word often misunderstood as giving up. The Arcturian Council defines surrender as releasing resistance to what is already occurring. Resistance consumes energy without altering reality, surrender redirects energy toward response. The shock is realizing that surrender increases effectiveness rather than diminishing it. When you stop fighting the moment, you gain access to its information. From there, action becomes precise instead of reactive. Surrender does not mean tolerating harm or abandoning boundaries, it means acknowledging what is before choosing how to engage. This subtle shift transforms struggle into participation. Backhand index pointing right. Type I surrender resistance to claim this message. The Arcturian Council now delivers the rehook you were warned would arrive when you least expected it, because this is the moment many drift back into comfort. Listen carefully, the timeline you are on will not slow down to accommodate hesitation anymore. This is not a threat, it is a cosmic weather report. Momentum has crossed a threshold where neutrality dissolves into consequence faster than before. If you feel pressure increasing, it is because your internal truth is accelerating while parts of your life remain static. The shock is realizing that stagnation now creates more pain than movement. What once felt safe to delay now feels unbearable to maintain. This is not because you are failing, it is because you are outgrowing containment. The Council states plainly that your nervous system is being upgraded to tolerate more truth, more presence, more responsibility. This upgrade can feel like restlessness, impatience, or sudden clarity that disrupts routines. Do not sedate this awareness. Engage it. This is the pivot point where conscious participation replaces unconscious repetition. Backhand index pointing right. Type I choose my timeline to claim this message. Now the Council addresses legacy, not in the sense of reputation, but in energetic imprint. Every choice you make leaves a residue not just in memory, but in the field. The shock is understanding that legacy is not something you leave behind later, it is something you generate now through coherence. You influence others not primarily through words, but through what you normalize by your presence. When you tolerate misalignment, you teach it. When you embody truth, you permission it. This is why self-betrayal has collective consequences. The Council is not asking you to be perfect, only consistent in returning to integrity. Even course corrections carry power when done consciously. Your life is already teaching. The question is, what lesson is it broadcasting? Backhand index pointing right. Type I embody my legacy to claim this message. The Arcturians now speak to humility, but not the shrinking kind. True humility is accurate self-perception. It neither inflates nor diminishes. The shock is realizing that self-doubt is not humility, it is distortion. When you underestimate yourself, you misrepresent reality as much as when you overestimate. Accuracy matters now. You are neither insignificant nor all-powerful, you are influential within your sphere. Owning this truth stabilizes your field. False modesty creates energetic noise, while grounded confidence creates clarity. The Council urges you to stop apologizing for existing at full capacity. Presence does not require permission. Backhand index pointing right. Type I stand accurately to claim this message. Attention turns now to choice fatigue, something many of you feel but rarely name. As awareness expands, so does the number of conscious decisions required. This can feel overwhelming. The shock is realizing that simplification is the solution, not withdrawal. Reduce decisions by anchoring to values instead of moods. When values are clear, choices become obvious. The Arcturian Council emphasizes that clarity reduces effort. You do not need to deliberate endlessly when alignment is defined. Fatigue often signals too many compromises, not too many responsibilities. Backhand index pointing right type I choose simplicity to claim this message. The council now addresses devotion not to an external deity or doctrine, but to coherence itself. Devotion is what sustains alignment when motivation fades. The shock is understanding that devotion is quieter than passion but more reliable. Passion surges and recedes, devotion persists. Devotion shows up as consistency, honesty, and willingness to adjust. When you are devoted to truth, you stop negotiating with misalignment. This devotion does not make life rigid, it makes it responsive. Backhand index pointing right type I devote to alignment to claim this message. Now comes a difficult truth about influence. The Arcturian Council states that you do not get to choose whether you influence others, you only choose how consciously you do so. Even withdrawal communicates something. Silence communicates something. The shock is realizing that hiding is still participation. If you are here, you are part of the equation. This is not meant to burden you, but to free you from the illusion that disengagement equals neutrality. Conscious influence begins with self-honesty. Backhand index pointing right type I influence consciously to claim this message. The message now turns tender. The council acknowledges the grief of becoming. You are not only gaining clarity, you are losing familiarity. Old comforts, identities, and coping mechanisms fall away. This can feel like mourning a life that never fully fit but was all you knew. The shock is realizing that grief is not regression, it is integration. Allow yourself to grieve what you are releasing, even if it was limiting. Grief clears space for gratitude without denial. Backhand index pointing right type I allow grief to claim this message. The Arcturians now emphasize patience, but not passive waiting. Patience here means staying present during unfolding. The shock is understanding that forcing resolution often delays it. Some processes complete only when pressure is removed. Trusting timing does not mean doing nothing, it means doing what is yours without demanding immediate outcome. This patience stabilizes your nervous system and sharpens perception. Backhand index pointing right type I practice patience to claim this message. As the message nears completion, the council reminds you that integration is ongoing. There is no final awakening, no permanent arrival. Consciousness is iterative. The shock is realizing that mastery is comfort with evolution, not dominance over it. Each level of clarity reveals the next layer of refinement. This is not exhausting when resisted, it is invigorating when embraced. Curiosity replaces fear. Backhand index pointing right type I embrace evolution to claim this message. The Arcturian Council closes with this final transmission: you were never meant to be convinced, only remembered. If something within you resonated, that is recognition, not belief. You will not be the same after this, not because of the words, but because of what they activated. The emergency was never about danger, it was about timing. You are on time now. Stay present. Stay honest. Stay in motion. The rest will meet you. Backhand index pointing right type I remember to claim this message.